Hey guys, it's Melanie. Happy Tuesday. So I'm coming at you with a bare face today. I do have some skincare on here, but I'm coming at you with a bare face because I am showing you my summer powder foundation routine. I thought this might be helpful for those of you that also have extremely oily skin like I do. During the summer months, for most people, I feel like their oil production kind of ramps up a little bit. And as a result of that, I do have to switch things up ever so slightly just to make sure that my makeup lasts throughout the bulk of the day. I typically tend to put my makeup on pretty early in the morning. So usually around like 7:30, somewhere around there. So I need it to last at least into the evening, like early evening, before I go upstairs and wash my face and do my nighttime routine. I also don't like messing with a whole lot of blotting during the day if I don't have to. So there's a few key tips that I have for the summer months that may help you if you also have really oily skin, or maybe if you just have combination skin, you can try a couple of these things just in those key areas. If you're lucky enough to just have like a T-zone oil problem, or if you're just oily on your cheeks, hopefully this helps. Bonus is that this also tends to hide my pores a little bit better as well. So worth a try. So I'm going to be using a couple different powder foundations today because one of them is really not the best color for my skin, but most of you guys that have used Laura Geller Balance and Brighten in the past know that it's kind of hard to find a color fit, but the way that this sits on my skin is just amazing. So anyway, I color correct it with this Wander Beauty Wanderlust powder foundation, which is kind of in my perfect shade. Quite frankly, I could use this just by itself and it would be amazing and fine, but I just love it's almost like a glow that I get from this. So mixing these two together just is a really good fit for me. And then you're gonna need to find yourself just like a powder, a setting powder of some kind. I'm trying to use this up from my collection, but really any type of powder. Another example would be, I've done this with the Hourglass Veil Translucent Setting Powder. It works really well with this. Any type of like silica-based type powder would be perfect for this. I know there's a really inexpensive one from e.l.f. I will link everything that I'm using today, as well as some suggestions for other translucent powders down below, because this one from Korres, I think this is discontinued. I bought this at Sephora for $6 at some point. So it was definitely when they were cleaning out the Korres makeup and were no longer really selling that in Sephora. So anyway, it's great powder, which is a bummer. What is the name of it? The Wild Rose Setting Powder. This is a mineral setting powder. So yeah, anyway, let's get into it. Another thing that you're going to need, which is really kind of one of the key things here, is you're going to need a sponge. This one here is the Super Sponge. It's a very unique sponge because it's not, like there's a traditional kind of foam part on the bottom, but this is like, it's like a silicone infused. It's very interesting. I will link this down below. The company did send me a couple of these and I have been using them for this and it works pretty great. So yeah, this pretty cool sponge here. And then you're gonna need a brush as well. Just to give you guys a sense of what I have on my face in terms of like SPF, I did use my beloved Paula's Choice Resist Super Light Daily Wrinkle Defense. Just has a little bit of a tint. If you have not looked into a zinc oxide mineral SPF sunscreen and you have very oily skin, I'm going to encourage you to do that because I find that for my oily skin, the zinc oxide formulas actually help to absorb or control the oil a lot better than some chemical containing sunscreens. So if there is a mix of zinc oxide with like an octinoxate, is that what's in here? like these, the Dermatology Broad Spectrum SPF 45. This has zinc oxide as well as octinoxate in it. This one works great. Another great mineral one is the Versed Guards Up Daily Mineral Sunscreen SPF 35. This also has a zinc oxide formula. So I have a sunscreen video that I will link down below. All of the sunscreens in that particular video work really well for my oily skin. And then I will be doing another one probably towards the end of July. But anyway, this is what I have on my face today. I also put on my eye primer just because I needed to. I have to have an eye primer for my oily eyelids. And sorry, I'm showing the camera here. One other thing that I thought I would mention, because I always put this underneath my eyes, the Color Science Total Eye 3-in-1 Renewal Therapy. I feel like this doesn't get a whole lot of love on YouTube anymore, but it's a great SPF for underneath the eyes. If you find that your eyes water, if you bring up your like regular sunscreens, oh, here comes Mr. Kong. Try this. It is expensive, but a little bit kind of goes a long way because you're just using this in your under eye area, so it's very easy to tap in. And this has never made my eyes water or irritated them in any kind of way. So if you have an issue with that, but you want to protect that delicate eye area, this is a great option for you. So I let my SPF sit on my face for a minimum of 5 minutes before I go in with my foundation. And I feel like that is kind of key. You need to let your SPF settle so that one, you're not wiping it away when you're putting on your powders, and two, that it really has a chance to like absorb into the skin. Ideally, if you can give it 10 to 15 minutes, that's even better. But if you're in a rush, I would say minimum 5 minutes. So everything has set on my face. So all I have are my 2 SPFs and my eye primer. So let's get into it. So what I'm gonna do is take my sponge and my powder from Korres, and I'm gonna put some of that powder into the lid here. And what I'm gonna do is take my sponge and dip that into the powder. So typically most people use these sponges for liquid foundations, but you can use them for powder products as well. So I'm just going to get some of that onto there, and I'm going to start pressing this onto my face on the areas where I have enlarged pores, where I know I tend to get really oily. So I'm just gonna concentrate on those areas, and then I'll show you what I do after. So I'm legit just pressing that. So you can see I kind of lay a little bit down, and then I start pressing that into my skin. And as I need more, I just grab a little bit more. Ignore the white cast right now. I'm gonna be getting rid of that. So on the nose especially, I find that that's an area for a lot of people where their foundation breaks up. So just make sure that you are hitting that nose and really press this powder into your skin. Hey, buddy. Oh, he's cleaning his paws. Okay, another area that is definitely in need of some shine protection is this enormous forehead of mine. So again, just kind of place the powder and then start pressing it into the skin. This sponge is really nice because it picks up a nice amount of product, and then it's really comfortable to press into the skin. I like the feel of this sponge a lot, but you could certainly use sorry, unprepared per usual. If you have this new flocked sponge from Real Techniques, I'll link this down below as well. You can see I've used this for this little project as well. I need to clean this one, but this is also a great one for powder products. So, okay. So once I get that pressed into all of the oily areas, I'm gonna take just a little bit more on my brush and then hit up the other areas of my face and just kind of work that, you can see there, into the powder that I pressed into the skin, work it into the skin a little bit more with the brush. So. I like to do a little bit on my lids as well, just to set that. And so that's the powder part, looking even whiter. So now I'm going to take the Laura Geller Balance and Brighten, and you can certainly, if you need some more coverage, use a sponge with powder foundation as well. So maybe I'll show you on my nose. So you just run it across, just kind of tap, 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 and then you can start pressing that into the areas where you need a little bit more coverage. This is always so awkward to do on camera. I have a mirror over here, so that's what I'm looking at. I just love the way this looks on my skin. I wish it was a little bit more warm or yellow toned. I find that all of Laura Geller's Balance and Brighten powder foundations are very beige, which is, I guess, what most people are, but I am pretty yellow in terms of my undertones, so. Okay, so once I do that, and normally I'm pretty fast with this, I will take just a little bit more on of the foundation, obviously on my brush. And work it into the other areas. I like powder foundation because it can really go from anywhere from like a light coverage to a medium. Most powder foundations tend to be pretty buildable, especially if you use a sponge. Now you do have to definitely make sure that you blend. You know, don't just like pat it into your skin and leave it. You do need to like then really make sure that you are blending that into the skin. So next I'm gonna take the Wanderlust powder foundation in the shade Light. You can see this is much more of a yellow undertone, which is a little bit more ideal. So this is gonna give me a little bit more coverage, and it's also going to correct that beige of the Balance and Brighten. I know, it probably is very silly. I should just use this, but like I said, there's something about the way that the Balance and Brighten looks on my skin and the glow that it gives. And the glow comes through the Wanderlust foundation as well. So you could certainly do a dip between the two and mix it that way. That would be another way to go. If you're lucky enough to where this fits you perfectly, then just use that. Again, with powder foundation, you really have to make sure that you work it into the skin. Don't just like slap it on and call it a day. Really buff it into the skin. That's how it tends to look the best. A little extra coverage just right around my eyes here. And I don't use concealer, guys. I know I get a lot of questions about what concealers I recommend. I hate concealers. I think they're disgusting. They're a cream product. Cream products don't work on my skin, so I don't use them. This, honestly, this has a really nice tint to it. You can kind of see it there. This provides enough coverage underneath my eyes to where I don't feel like I need anything more beyond that. And that's it. That is my powder foundation routine. So you can see now it kind of all goes together. At this point, I'm just gonna go ahead and go in with the rest of my makeup and get on with my day. So I hope this was helpful. Again, you don't necessarily need to use this particular sponge, although it works really well. You can certainly use a Real Techniques sponge, or if you have a beauty blender. I tend to prefer to use them dry, but you can use a just very slightly damp sponge as well to get some additional coverage if you're looking for that. If I were to like go to a special event, I would probably go that route, just so it looks even more polished. But for every day, this works just fine. And you can really, well, probably not because my camera is just a point and shoot, but you can really like barely tell that my pores are there. They're there, but they just look a lot smoother when I press that powder into the skin. So anyway, for those of you that asked, this is the summer powder foundation routine. I hope it was helpful. Look down below for the links to everything, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.